a little bit of background about what we do at the university. It's a network of centres around the world in about 100 different countries. And the main thing we do is teach courses in self-development, meditation, positive thinking, self-esteem, these sort of things. And the reason we wanted to, a group of us came together basically that had a direct interest in individuals with special needs. I have a younger brother who has special needs, 3 years younger than me, Paul. And the whole group involved today actually in one way or another directly involved with special needs, either parents, siblings or teachers. And for some time we've been wanting to do a program specifically to focus on that and to help. And really today's program is about looking at the inner resources we have inside of all of us that can help us maintain a positive frame of mind, even though obviously as a sibling, and you all know, living and working with individuals that have special needs can be very challenging, both for them and for everyone involved. So it's nice to really focus on what we can do to actually look after ourselves and help empower ourselves. Because the philosophy at the university really is that when I change, the world changes, and that if I help build my own inner strength up and look after myself with care, then I'm better able to help the people around me as well. Does that sound okay? So just give you a quick overview of today's program. It looks quite busy, but it's a nice. It's going to be a nice, gentle, enjoyable program. We've got various things happening today. In a few moments, we're going to actually have, as an introduction, a nice slideshow with a gentle commentary, just to get us into a positive frame of mind. And we're going to have some sharings from various people in the team actually who organise the event, actually sharing their own personal experiences, and particularly from the point of view of how they felt before they started the practice of positive thinking and meditation, and how they've seen it change for them since practicing that, how they've seen things change in terms of how they deal with everything in their life, but particularly the interaction with individuals with special needs. There's going to be some reflective exercises, some workshops, and just basically to help develop a positive frame of mind. And also we want to give you all some tools that you can take away at the end of the day, things that you can practically use in your day-to-day life to help. So is this okay? Yeah? So just a little bit about my story. I thought as an introduction. My brother Paul, as I said, who has autism, is high functioning. This is a picture of Paul. A few years ago, granted, he's only 3 years younger than me, so it looks like an absolute angel, and he was, but it wasn't until he was 3 years old that we actually found out that he had autism, and especially back in the 70s, diagnoses, that was quite an early diagnosis back then. So it was a bit of a shock, obviously, for the whole family when we found out. I didn't really understand that much about it, only being 6 at the time when he was diagnosed. This is a picture of the two of us a while ago, just last week. No, as if it was a few years ago. This is me and Paul together. And again, you know, one of the challenges, I think, with autism, I know here you've got people with different special needs, and we certainly wanted to cater for the whole range, but with autism in particular, one of the challenges is that they look completely normal. And so when their behavior is less than what people consider normal, it can be a bit of a shock for everybody around. So as you can see, he looked very normal. But this is a picture, we haven't got many pictures of him. This is a picture when he's just about to go. We got used to seeing this face quite a lot. It still looks pretty angelic, but you can see in the eyes that all is not well. And this is when, a few moments later, you could expect a massive amount of screaming and shouting and all sorts of interesting behavior. So it was certainly challenging growing up. But, I mean, for me, it was just normal, I guess. And a picture of Paul more recently. He's actually turned into a wonderful young man. And for me, I started actually practicing meditation and positive thinking about 11 years ago. And one of the problems I always struggled with growing up with Paul was a feeling of why him? I think that was my overriding thought. And I probably am guilty of at some stages thinking, why me? I think we can all associate with that. But actually what I found with meditation is, and this might be a bit of a leap, but it's my own personal experience, is that there is a lot of beauty in life, and there's a lot of beauty even in very difficult challenges in life. But what I've found is that with meditation and positive thinking, a regular practice, actually by becoming strong in myself, it's enabled me to be more stable around Paul, and that's helped him to remain more peaceful. And it's also allowed me to build the inner strength that when he's struggling, I can still experience the qualities within him. Whereas when I was growing up, I was often very embarrassed and very tired and very drained from just all the very unpredictable interactions that would happen both at home and in public. I can honestly say from studying some of the things we're going to go through today, that it really is possible to tune into the beautiful qualities that we all have inside of ourselves, and actually the strength that we have inside. And while most of us are just running around on the treadmill of life trying to cope with everything, we don't often give ourselves enough time to take care of ourselves. We're too busy looking after everyone else. So this really is a program about learning how we can take care of ourselves a bit better.
What I notice always, because I travel quite a bit and involved in different countries, actually not just Greece, but I lived in Hungary, in Turkey, and involved in the activities in Bulgaria. I'm Italian of origin, so quite a fruit salad of experiences and things. And but I find that whatever is externally happening, whatever is the external situation, I do have to prioritize to be able to care for myself. Because if I'm not able to care for myself, it's going to be extremely difficult to be able to care for others. And that caring for others, yes, it is children and people with special needs, but I tell you, there are so many people that have a lot of very deep needs these days. You know, so much lack of confidence, so much lack of foundation and sense of identity within themselves, so much emotional and psychological problems in a lot of people. Because breaking a leg, it's not too bad. You can fix it. But a broken mind, a broken heart, and you find that there are also these people with these type of needs, and it's growing and growing and growing. And it's not only doctors now that are doing work, it's also nurses, it's also social workers, it's also all of these people, healthcare workers and carers. And what you see that is very important now is that each one really must develop their inner strength and develop their resilience. And we have the resources inside to be able to do this. When I lived in Australia once, there was a huge bushfire near our home, and acres and acres of eucalyptus trees were burnt. They were burnt to a stump. And I thought, that's the end of the forest, that's it. And then after 2 or 3 months, it started raining. And when it started raining, these little red shoots came out of these charcoal stumps. They started to come out. Then I asked a friend of mine who was involved in all of this, how, what happened? I thought they were dead. I said, oh no, the eucalyptus tree has a very fire-resistant sap, and its roots are able to go very, very, very deep and look for nourishment, whether it's water, whether it's vitamins, and sustain itself. And then I said, and the red shoots, actually they grew about that long, very long, and they remained very deep red. I said, why are the shoots red and not green? Why don't they turn green? It's because red appears like a poisonous colour to animals, so they won't eat it. And because otherwise, if the animals did eat those shoots at that time, the tree would not recover. It would not have the resilience. So, nature has has the methods of resilience, and so each of us as a human being has also the resilience inside of ourselves. And situations may not change, and very often they don't. Problems don't change, and actually these days more and more it's getting more problematic and more difficult. The only power I have, and it's a big power, and the only freedom I really have is to change myself in terms of attitude, in terms of thoughts, in terms of feelings. The difficulty is that all of this is very subtle, and we don't always see the effect straight away. It's like homeopathic medicine, you take it, and it takes time, but it's much more natural. It takes time to work. For example, one of the things that people are missing now is peace. They don't have that tranquility. You know how many people, antidepressants and tranquilizers are the best selling, what do we call them, medicines at pharmacies. These two, antidepressants and tranquilizers. But you can't get tranquility is not a chemical thing. Tranquility comes from within. And so what happens is people take these chemical things to feel better. It does the opposite because it ruins something else. So one of the things that we learn through the power of deeper understanding and awareness and silence is we start to emerge our own inner peace that is able to cope with situations. When I went to Czechoslovakia, just as it was coming out of communism, I went to one of these health baths and things like that. And you're not allowed to speak. When you go in the water, you have to keep quiet. And you know what it used to say? Silence heals. Silence heals. And then when you used to go walk on a track in the forest, because you also have to keep quiet also, little labels. Silence heals. Silence heals. So I think the thing is that I have to be able to use this reservoir that I do have in myself, these blueprints that enable me to have well-being and effectiveness in spite of the situation. Because ultimately, if I'm not able to look after myself, who will? The first thing is with that, is myself, knowing how to do it, and then, of course, having community and having other people where one can share, is very important as well. But, so the first thing is my internal resources. And I would say the most important internal resource at the beginning is peace. Why peace? Peace makes me stable. Peace gives me a kind of self-control also. Peace also is very important to have clarity in my mind and clarity in my intellect, because when I have clarity, then the decisions I make are much more accurate. If I'm in stress or I'm in anger, the decisions I make may be quite wrong. And especially if those decisions are affecting other people. I have never seen a stressed person, really make an appropriate or correct decision. It's half. And so one of the things that we learn, one of the things and it's a matter of practicing, this is not all done in one day. Because we usually have the habit of reaction. We usually have the habit of getting entangled. Now, for that to go away straight away won't be possible. Straight away, all of it. Bit by bit. Have you ever learnt anything? You've learnt some things, huh? And so when you learn something, whether it's dancing, whether it's a language, whatever, you go bit by bit, systematic, bit by bit, and build it up. And because it's a much more natural way of building up the strength, and actually it's the only way. And so these internal resources that I have as a human being, I have this spiritual dimension, and that inner peace, which is very much linked to an inner freedom, inner stability, inner balance, and it's the basis of being also quite respectful towards others. Of course, respect is really an aspect of love. But also, if I'm at peace with someone, also, it's usually I will also have a certain respect for them too. And so, always to be aware of these resources that I do have. And of course, there are others as well. There's love and there's happiness. But love is pretty high, don't you think? And for love, you require, it requires respect, kindness, forgiveness, patience, generosity, quite a few things. Same with happiness. Someone, we're talking about happiness as an aim, and I remember some people telling me, is it possible? Is it possible to be happy? Consistently? What would you say? Is it possible to be consistently happy?
I would say no.
You say no. Ultimately, life is what you make it. You create your reality by what you believe in. Which means I have a wonderful freedom to choose. I can choose. But actually, like love, I have to go a bit further down. You can't be happy unless actually, first of all, there is appreciation. I appreciate my life. I appreciate the life of others. There's a lot of simplicity also in appreciation. I appreciate, today it's another day, the morning, the sun rose. What would we do one day if the sun didn't come up? What would you do? But we take it as normal, don't we? We take it. The problem is that appreciation, it's the opposite of taking something for granted. Sometimes I've seen people complain very much about something, someone, and when that something or someone goes, they feel sorrow. Actually, they feel regret. If only I had said that. If only I had acted like that. So let me appreciate the things while they're there, and never to have regret or feel guilt about anything. Why? They are totally sabotaging emotions. They will sabotage me. Mistakes everybody makes, and everybody has a right to make mistakes. But the thing is to learn from them. It's okay. And so to appreciate my day, these may sound very simple, but it's very different when you wake up in the morning and you think, there's another day in my life. I have an opportunity for something. Or, another day. What have I got to go through? You know, another hell, another. You know. Truly, what is going to be my entry point? What will be my entry point? Because if I see things negative, they will only get more negative. I mean, you know, you can't plant pumpkins and then say, where are the roses? I want roses. But, you know, but you planted pumpkins. Nothing wrong with pumpkins, but, you know, what you plant in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your attitude, in terms of your feelings, they are the seeds. So you can't expect anything else. I had a friend of mine once, and she used to tell me that, oh, I never get disappointed by anybody. I never get disappointed by anything. And I thought, God, that's pretty good. I mean, I was wondering how she manages that, because, you know, I said, you know, I can't manage that all the time. I can't. You know? I said, are you sure? I said, have you don't get disappointed by anyone? You don't get disappointed by any situation? And she said, no. Not that she was a particularly happy person. It's not that I noticed she was happy or enthusiastic or whatever. And so I said, you know, what's your secret? What's your key? And she said, easy. She said, I always expect the worst. I said, what? I thought I was not hearing properly. I said, so she said, I always expect the worst. I'm never disappointed, am I? I said, what kind of defense mechanism is that? I said, I'd rather be disappointed and learn something and, you know, get on with it, but not always to be in this state of suspicion and, you know, pessimism and, you know, not trusting, you know. Adventure. So, I think that getting back to this whole thing, you know, appreciating. Don't take anything for granted, especially my breath in my life. It's very valuable for myself and for others. And then when there's appreciation and that simplicity, for my life, I know the life is complicated, but for my life, what's my compass? And then there comes after that contentment. Again, dissatisfaction is a very big problem. People are very dissatisfied. And then they complain, and things just snowball. They just snowball. So contentment. If I am not content and I'm not appreciative, very difficult to be happy. And I find people don't believe in happiness. I remember one person was saying, I believe in peace, but it happens, you know, it's beyond, you know. Maybe when I'm with the angels, I'll be happy, you know, but peaceful. I said, what? So you're peaceful and struggling? He says, well, even peaceful I'm not that often. I said, but, you know, what's your dignity? It's a matter of your dignity as a person. It's a matter of your dignity, you know, as someone who exists on this earth and has a value. Why make yourself the victim of external circumstances? If I learn to master myself on the basis of having dignity for myself, I will start to deal with certain situations. And so go inside often and connect with my inner peace, my inner tranquility. That will keep me strong. Strong is not to force or to fight or to be aggressive. You know, a strong person is always soft. You know that? A strong person, because they're strong, they can be very flexible. A weak person is very rigid, very dogmatic, keeps going over and over and over what went wrong, what went wrong, what went wrong, what went wrong. A strong person, okay, this went wrong, let's see what we can do. They're solution seekers rather than being stuck in the negative. So that's one thing, the resources. And I said, just concentrating on peace, and that inner peace that brings also that contentment. As I said, as we teach also, is that actually all of these are subtle things. They're very subtle. Like we said before, homeopathy, and they're subtle energies that start to work. But these are the energies that create the atmosphere wherever I am. The atmosphere, you can't see it, but you can feel it. You go into a house, you feel the atmosphere, and this atmosphere is produced by what's going on inside a person. For example, you can be very polite in your office and say, "Oh, how are you?" Yeah? But you don't care a damn. Who cares how we are? And that's the message that the subconscious of the other receives. And then you wonder, but I'm polite. And they're not open. Of course they're not. Because I'm saying one thing with my lips and I'm sending another message. Sometimes people don't realize the great impact that there is in this. Atmosphere is very, very, very crucial in healing, in good feelings, in relationships. So don't underestimate, that inner power and that power of peace and bringing it out through either meditation exercises or deep attention on it. It does work. Because you don't have, when you have good feeling, you don't say, "Look, I have a good feeling for you." You understand? It's there. It's there. The most valuable and quality things in life, if they're there, you never have to speak them. I mean, occasionally you might, but generally speaking, it's in the atmosphere, it's in the behavior. You know where it is mainly? In the eyes. Eye touch. You know about eye touch? Through the eye. Through the eyes. Touching others through the eyes. You know the most, the feeling of support and protection or healing, or whatever you like to call it, that others get is always through the hands, often through the hands and through the eyes. When a child falls down and the mother, touches where the child fell, it's very healing. Or through the eyes, just looking, the way you look. They say this, if looks could kill. You heard that expression? In Greece and Turkey they have the evil eye, Italy also. And they say the eyes are the windows of the soul. A lot of energy is transmitted through the eyes. And again, that can calm people down too. I've seen sometimes, because I was a teacher with children, and they were pretty chaotic. I remember once I had 40 or 50 in a class, and how do you manage? And I was a young teacher in Greece, and they said, teach them English. I said, man, how can I teach them English? It's 50 kids in the class, and they're from 10 to 17. And as I got worked up about it, they started also. I reached a crescendo with my voice, and as 50 voices also reached their crescendo. It's like I was the conductor and they were all following. And they were doing the opposite to what I wanted them to do. But they're actually following me very accurately, because I was giving that example. Keep quiet at the top of my voice. Because it happens when you're overwhelmed, you reach a point that is no longer effective in terms of positivity. So then when I decided, take a hold of yourself, keep it cool. It's like, And that changed the atmosphere. Not straight away, it took a little time, but I had to keep the self-centered. And then looking at them. But not looking at them, with any negative feelings. You little so. Not like this. I had to see them as humans, as souls, human beings as souls, as people, they have a right also to exist. And I had to forget that they were giving me a headache, I had to do that. So I had to go in, and then through the eyes just spread that atmosphere. I couldn't do it through the hands, because actually using the hand is much more limiting. It can be if it's just 1-to-1 or it's 2 or 3. But when it's quite a few people, actually the eyes are much more effective, and the energy that comes through that. This is a very important exercise. Well, I wouldn't call it an exercise. In the beginning it's an exercise because I have to practice going within, connecting with my inner peace and radiating. I think it's very important never to underestimate the healing or the balancing that the peace and the good feelings can actually have through the power of the eyes, and of course the power of touch. And so for yourself, and for myself, I find, and again, where there's a lot of stress and a lot of different things, take time out for 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to meditate, to go in with power. 1 second, what do you do in 1 second? What happens in 1 second? It's one thought, one breath, one heartbeat. That all happens in 1 second. So the thought, go in, keep eyes open, because if you're working with people that, what are you doing? What's happening? Got a headache? Something wrong? So keep eyes open, go within, be here, go within. With the breath, I am peace. Now usually we go like this, when we feel very loaded, we go, the body's throwing off tension. But if I do it with my breath, I am peace, I relax, peace, I'm a soul. Never do it fast, do it slow, no? Never do it fast. I'm soul, I'm peace, I'm in balance, I'm tranquil, 10 seconds up. This doesn't work. Effective things are deep. Short, they can be deep. So this practice of going into myself and stabilizing myself. Now what it will do, it takes my consciousness in 10 seconds, if I do it properly, to another level. And that gives me the clarity to see if I have to do anything or I just share. When a person is in turmoil, I find that actually first go into that inner peace, to that good feeling, and then emanate it through eyes and through touch.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's been nice to be able to connect with some of you during the program. Listening to Anthony as well. I know I've taken some points of reflection for myself. And as he was speaking a little bit, it just took me back to when I used to work with children and adults with autism. Some had Down syndrome, others were showing symptoms of schizophrenia. So this was a few years ago when I used to work as a support worker. And remembering everyone that I used to work with, a lot of feelings of love just started emerging. And initially anyone would think, or people would actually tell me, why on earth would you put yourself in this situation where you're going to be working, possibly getting bruised, getting scarred, physically, they say even mentally, you're with them on a daily basis, why would you even want to do this to yourself? And these thoughts started creeping in when I started working. with the adults with autism, because not only did they have autism, they had a lot of complex needs as well. But as I got to know them, which took me a lot longer than what it did for them, it took them about a day to suss me out, what I was like, what were the little cracks in which they could work their way through to get what they wanted from me, and kind of establish what is the relationship I'm going to be able to have with this guy. And it was very much in line with what Anthony was just sharing. It was not a verbal communication, because none of them could speak. It was very much about the eyes, the relationship of the eyes. So anything I could have said which didn't express what I was feeling inside, they could catch in a minute. So there was a few difficult initial trials which I faced, purely because I first expressed fear. And after that, it was just, I just recall it now, and it's just such a beautiful feeling that, everyone that I worked with was not just someone I was going into to help. These were actually my family. And I just completely went past the barriers of, this one has autism with complex needs, another one is low functioning, another one has this. That was completely besides the point. What really stuck out for me was, this is my family. I am seeing you from when you wake up to when you go to bed. And we are just going to make sure that we learn how to live with one another, because we're a family. And it worked out beautifully. It worked out beautifully because I got to know them, they got to know me, and it was all purely because we took the time out to sit with one another, not through language, verbal language, but through the language of the heart. And as Anthony was saying, it was all that communication through the eyes that I was able to express, what was it that I want? What is it that you need to do to understand me? Because many times we would relate the outbursts and screams to just being mischievous, just being naughty, just seeking attention. And the problem was that we couldn't actually identify what was it that they were seeking to fulfill, what need did they want, what was it that they were seeking to have within their own lives that we didn't understand. And it was through time of actually understanding there is something much deeper behind what is being sought in these expressions of anger, of screaming, of causing absolute chaos. It was just a simple need. And we had to identify what is the best way for them to communicate with us. And the beautiful thing was that it wasn't about there being an us and them, it was a we together. That's been my personal experiences. And spirituality has actually helped me identify that when we see them as something beyond the flesh and bones, beyond the behaviors, and as Amelia was saying, when you strip yourself away from all of those labels, they are essentially these personalities trying to express themselves the same as we are, but in a very unique way that we may not be able to identify with initially. And that's what really resonated with me, and I just wanted to express that with all of you.